Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Today we bring back Yael Kabili. Hey Yael, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yes, a lot of the audience already know who you are. Been on many times, and this today, what we're going to be talking about.
So we're going to talk about specifically the due diligence stage of the exit when you
Yeah,
sell your business. As you know, you sign an LOI and then you go through the due diligence stage where the buyer actually looks at your business, reviews your business, and makes sure that the business is fine and there are no big issues. And so we're going to talk today about things that actually can kill a deal,
yeah,
and the purpose is really not to scare but to prevent it.
yeah.
So if you know most of the things we're going to talk about, the deal should go smoothly in most of the cases.
Cool. And we're breaking this into 4 parts, aren't we? Trust and confidence, business momentum, IP, and then compliance and TOS. So do you want to kick off with the first?
Yeah, sure. So trust and confidence, that's it sounds obvious, right?
It's a no-brainer, isn't it? Yeah,
It's a no-brainer, right? I mean, you think about selling the business. Obviously, the buyer has to trust you. Uh, but actually, when you're dealing with these cases, very often sellers ask, "Should I show this? I had this issue, but it's resolved. Should I tell it? I had a patent case. Should I tell it? I've been doing rebates. Are they going to find out? I mean, how do they know? I use another account to pay for them. How do they know I use rebates?" So these are some sellers are not sure what to tell and what not to tell. And the bottom line at the end, all buyers, they hear about everything. They know everything. Okay. Their job during the due diligence is to go through all your bank accounts, through all your expenses. They're going to see if you paid for rebates or whatever service that helps pushing the listings. So the key here is to reveal everything and actually reveal as much as you can.
Mhm.
Because the last thing you want is to sell the business to a point where sell it, get the money, and then you cannot sleep at night.
Yeah,
Okay, why? Because you're afraid that your buyer will sue you. And if they find out that you lied on your declarations and you said that everything is great, I never had anything related to review manipulation, I never used an insert, and then turns out you did, they'll sue you.
mhm.
And there are cases, by the way, in our industry, without getting into details, there have been sellers who were actually where there was a lawsuit because they forgot to give some details about things they've done. So I think the principle is clear.
Mm.
The buyer will know
Yeah,
either now or later. And you want, because you declare and you show, and in the contract you present everything that you've done, you actually want to put everything there. So if they buy, they can come back to you and say, "Hey, you did this and that. I told you, it's in the contract." So you want to present as much information as you can and show everything that you've done. We had a case about a year ago where a seller was using rebates. That's why I use this example. He paid about 200K per year for rebates, so that's an expense that should have been in the P&L. He didn't show us. He didn't tell anybody. Not deliberately. He actually forgot about it.
yeah,
So the buyer found out. And that was quite an earthquake in the deal. It almost fell eventually. I mean, we the buyer believed the seller that the seller forgot, and the deal went through and everything was okay. But that's something that could have killed the deal. So the bottom line is they'll know anyway.
mm.
And you want to sleep well after you sell the business, or don't sell it, but don't sell it while lying. You
Yeah.
won't be able to sleep after you sell it. And present as much information as you can about any suspension, any past problem that you potentially had. Very important.
Cool. Point number two.
So the second point would be around intellectual property. So one of the things, if we had to look at the deal that didn't go through during the last 3 years we've been dealing with M&As, I think that one of the key elements is intellectual property. So you have trademarks. Most sellers know that they need a trademark. For a buyer buying a business without a trademark in the main country, let's say you're selling in the US, buying a business without a trademark in the US won't pass. You cannot sell the business. So don't even bother go to market for a business on Amazon.com if you don't have a trademark in the US. So that's one. The second thing is, it's not only about having a trademark generally. It's about having a trademark in the right countries, and it's about having the trademark in the right categories. So we've had cases, just recently we had a case where the trademark was registered in the US. It was not registered in Europe. Europe was about 15% or 20% of the sales for that particular business. It was actually applied for, but it wasn't fully registered. It passed only some of the registration stage. The buyer did not want to proceed with the deal. What we suggested is, let's close the US part, the 80%, and then the 20%. Let's put it on escrow until it goes until the trademark goes through. But that some of the buyers are actually internally restricted. They have investors, and to their investors, they present certain criteria for buying businesses. And one of the first criteria is that the business will have a trademark. So make sure that it's registered in all the geographies in which you sell, not just the US, but US and potentially Europe if you sell in Europe, and Canada if you haven't apply for it. And the second thing to think about, to consider if you're going to sell, let's say in a year, is China. If you manufacture in China, and you and I have discussed it, I think, in one of our previous episodes, but if you're going to if you manufacture in China, and in some cases, there are Chinese kind of hijackers who will go and steal your trademark. If that happens, they can actually block your goods at the customs and prevent you from sending the products to the US. And that's something that buyers are afraid of if there's a problem. So if you haven't applied for anything in China, that's not a blocker. Most buyers will proceed with the deal. But if you haven't applied and somebody stole it, that's something buyers will be worried about, because there is an issue now to handle. So if you have a year to sell the business, I would look at China and just secure it. It's not expensive, really not expensive, and just secure it so that you won't have problems during the deal. We've had that in one deal where actually during the deal the seller had to deal with a hijacker in China.
Gotcha. And what about point number 3?
So the third thing would be around the momentum. It's actually not really a legal part. It's mostly a business I'd say consideration. You have to think about the industry and the way it works right now. I think that the industry has never been as hot as now. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows that the multiples are as high as they can be, probably. But then buyers are paying more, but they want growing businesses. They don't want to buy businesses that are severely declining. And so if you go to market, you have to decide when you go to market. Because when you go to market, when your trend is like that, if you compare last year to this year, if you compare 1 month by now, if you look at the last 3 months, if your trend is positive, you're going to get a lot of offers, especially if you go to market and you tap the entire market. And when you get many offers, the price goes up. So there's like an auction and people bid until you get to the maximum. If you go to market...
Quick question there, Yael.
Yes, sorry.
I know everyone wants the hockey stick high to the right. What happens if you don't have that? As an example, because we always talk about it, but we don't talk about, well, what actually happens to the companies that don't stay on that trajectory, but they want to sell their business. Obviously, the other one is they can be lowballed.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine it's not a common occurrence, because not everyone's got a magic wand to keep going up and up and up and up into
Well,
the
let
sky.
me tell you about 80%. Somebody posted a poll on MDS. About 80% of the businesses are now trending down. Many of them. You have to understand what's the reason. If they're declining because they had a COVID bump, it's fine. 2019 was okay, and then there was a crazy bump on 20 and 20. We crossed 2020 basically because it doesn't represent anything. This year is more representative, and if you see it's still growing compared to 2019, then you're fine. If the business is not growing but it's stable, it's also fine. That's a business that will not get low multiples.
It's the downward, But
right. If it goes down, many of the buyers will look at it and will say, I don't know how to do better. The seller is doing an amazing job. If the seller doesn't know how to push up how do we know how to do so? Sometimes the best thing is to wait, because about half of the businesses that we speak with that are trending down, a few months later they go up again, and we're seeing that. I don't know if you noticed, but like in May, June, July this year, there was a drop, like a severe decline in probably 90% of the businesses of 2021. And this year, and Q4 was fine. Most of the businesses are now stabilizing. I think January and February are also going to look good. And many of those businesses that went down, all they had to do is just to wait, and they now go to market. So when you go down, I know that sometimes you want to sell and that's it, and sometimes you want to sell and you cannot do better. Okay, so if you can't do better, then okay, sell it maybe for a lower multiple. But if you there's a chance you'll do better if you can consult with someone. I don't know if the problem is your tacos, and you can consult with someone like you to improve it, or if the problem is the cost of goods that went up, or we have a client where the sourcing is really an issue. They have like 7 or 8 different suppliers where you could actually have one. Sometimes there's an answer to that, and you could probably in 4 or 5 months improve it, and that would obviously be much better. Going to market without any excuses, then you get tons of offers, and then you get to the maximum.
Cool. And final point, compliance.
So the final point, so around compliance, we started, I mentioned it briefly earlier. I think there are things on the health of the account that most buyers are okay with, and if they're not going to buy anything because no account is perfect, and there are some things that are really red flag. When it comes, I think 2021 for us was the year of review manipulation. I think both at Fortinet and at the law firm, it was the year of, we've never seen so many suspensions for review manipulation, and buyers were afraid of it. When they look at a review manipulation, they're scared that the reviews will disappear. And what do they buy? They buy reviews. If you don't have the reviews, there's no, the sales go down. So that was a big concern this year, if you look at what buyers are looking at. And I think this is where it goes back to confidence and trust. If there was something around review manipulation, you should definitely say it. Most of the businesses we represent have received a notice sometime for review manipulation. They used insert until recently, but then they stopped. So if you were never, completely suspended, if your account wasn't entirely suspended, you just received notices and you stopped, you should be okay. But then look at your account. If you want to sell in the next 6 months or a year, do it now. Don't wait until you get suspension, because some buyers will not buy businesses that were entirely suspended. Not all of them, but some.
Cool. So just to round up on the 4 points we had. So we've covered obviously the trust and confidence, business momentum, IP, and then we've got the compliance, and we've covered the TOS. Is there anything that we haven't covered in terms of what trends are you seeing flipping your hat over from Fortinet over to the legal practice? What are some of the key things that you see were taking place in terms of suspensions in Q4?
Yeah, I mean, Q4. I feel that actually this Christmas was calmer than the year before. I'm saying carefully. It's usually a war room, our law firm, and it was again this year. But the types of problems were not as severe as they were last year. I feel that sellers have learned many lessons from the previous Q4, and they're very careful. If you look at it, probably 90% of them are not playing with inserts anymore. They're not playing with asking for reviews anymore. They're not manipulating anything by now. Even the bullet points, which was the big thing of the year before, Amazon calmed down with cracking down on the PDP. So it's becoming better. Still, a lot of businesses have some changes to be made. For example, about claims, medical claims. Be careful with that. That's something that we've seen a lot recently. But generally speaking, actually Q4 was much more positive than the year before. And I'm hoping that this year we won't have huge waves of new suspensions.
Cool. What's the best way that people can reach you?
It's yael@fortunet.net or yael@ekabili.com for the law firm.
Excellent. Guys, thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, rate or leave a review, depending on the platform you're on. I'll see you again soon. Take care of yourself and your family. Much love, and I'll speak to you.